Well, that's good. That's a good start. So you're going to just have to lip read that first part. Well done me not turning the mic on. You should now be able to hear me, so hopefully that's going to work. Excellent start. What I was just saying literally was, it feels like morning to me, even though it is a good afternoon to you, because we are now 12:30. Sunday is my only day off of the week. I always have a wee lie in on a Sunday, then I'm out in the garden with the cats, and I was nice and cosy in my wee jumper. Clearly, I am not all of the way awake because I did not turn the sound on for the video. Excellent start. Although, to be fair, for some of you that might feel like an improvement, because at this point, the amount just listen to me, my voice probably goes through your head. But, please do smash a like on the video on your way in. Say hi as you join so I know who's here. All the fun people are in the house. Some of you might be having a lie on, the same as myself. I'm going to watch this on the catch up. If you're watching on the catch up, hope you had a nice lie in. Please do also smash the like button. Now, we do have a poll going in the chat. Obviously, we will get to what that poll's about. It says, should VAR be scrapped for the FA Cup in the future? Yes, it ruins the fun. No, it was used correctly yesterday. Or keep all rounds the same either way. So you don't care if it's used or not used, but do the same thing in every single round. Why do you have it in some and not in others? That's the side I would be on, because I just think I just think it's silly. The competition has VAR or it doesn't. It shouldn't matter. And I understand they do it because in the early stages, not all of the grounds have VAR. If that's the case, and you want to keep it kind of uniform and fair for everybody, just don't have it at all. Do you know what I mean? And it's not to do with any decision, because I actually personally feel the decisions were correct yesterday, and we will get to that. I don't have a problem with the decisions that were made. I actually thought the interventions yesterday were correct and right. However, I just think it's ridiculous to have a tournament where some matches you use it, some matches you don't. Nobody really knows where the land lies. Like, what happens if one of those smaller teams does get all the way through that doesn't have VAR at their ground? What are you going to do? Just not use it? It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. It's like having a different set of rules for different games. But yeah, you guys get involved with the poll there. Let me know what you think. So far we have 50% yes, it should be scrapped, it ruins the fun, and 50% saying keep all rounds the same either way. So I'm probably a bit of both there. Guess is in the house. Wishing for a cup of tea. Aren't we all wishing for a cup of tea? I just had a cup of tea in the garden with the Kit Kats. You know, the back garden's beautiful, but we have a nice little deck and a nice seating area that my other half built for us, and it's just fantastic. But it has been a rather cold and wet start to the year for us in Ireland. We rained every day for the first 54 days of 2026. It rained here, so we haven't had much chance to get out into the garden. So this morning I had my tea and toast in the garden with the cats, and they were delighted to be outside, which hence the lovely jumper. But I would love another cup of tea. I'll probably have one after the stream. Sunday's one of those relax, chill out, just potter around, don't really do much kind of days. Lots of tea is what that means to me. Chris is in the house. Chris has managed to make another live show. Very impressive. I am quite impressed with you, Chris. Well done to you. Guess instead of having a nice cup of tea is doing up a grocery list. Oh, the fun of being an adult. Love it. Not at all. Chris is ready for his coffee. Lodges are all making me jealous. And our very lovely Mama Flossie is in the house. Thank you to Mama Flossie for joining us when she knows this stream is not going to be exactly super duper fun about her club. So our lovely Mama Flossie always in the house with us. But people, we do actually have quite a bit to talk about from the FA Cup yesterday. I don't have Arsenal on the thumbnail because I did not watch the Arsenal match. So before any of the Arsenal fans feel slighted or that I'm picking on them, I was busy in the morning time and I didn't watch your match. So I can't talk about it because I didn't watch it. I know you won. I know you're through. I know it wasn't exactly as smooth as you would like. That's all I know about your match. So I'm not going to sit here and have a natter about something that I didn't watch because that would be a little bit silly and a little bit disingenuous. But I don't know if anybody, because obviously this is a football channel, I don't know if anybody is into the MMA that be's on this channel. Sat up last night to watch the MMA after watching the football, And honestly, I had a great day of sport yesterday. So yesterday morning I got up and I actually was on the lovely Kate and Jimbo's charity stream, 12-hour stream they did yesterday for suicide awareness and mental health. Fantastic stream. If you didn't check it out, feel free to go and have a look at it on Kate and Jimbo. When I was done that, had a little bit of lunch, just had a nice day, and then I went and I watched Chelsea and Wrexham. And it was a very good match, lads. Did everybody in the chat watch it? Chris, see, you're a nice fan, so I know you wouldn't be annoyed. Chris says, I don't feel slighted, I'm just happy we're through. And you know what? That's the correct attitude to have, because we're not in it to get through at United, so I'm certainly not going to be taking the mickey out of anybody else. Chris loves the UFC. I love it. To be fair, I love MMA in general. And I know it's supposed to be the poor younger brother, I actually prefer Bellator. The reason I prefer Bellator is I absolutely love Big John McCarthy. So when I first started watching MMA, I didn't obviously really know anything about it. And so I sat and I watched all of the full shows that they have uploaded onto YouTube. And you have Big John on the commentary, and he like explains all the rules and the moves and the different things. And so I have to say, I'm a big fan of Big John, and obviously he's only on Bellator, so I slightly favour Bellator, but I did stay up last night to watch the fight, the main event, and you know what? I really enjoyed it. It's such a good day. It's put me in a great, like, you would think because you've less sleep you wouldn't be as happy, but I'm in a great mood today because I really enjoyed myself watching it. Aaron is in the house. Welcome, Aaron. Thank you for being here, and back to the football, away from the MMA. Wrexham and Chelsea. Now, I know the final result, 4-2, makes it look like Chelsea had quite a convincing win. To be fair though, that is not exactly how that match went at all. Actually, to be honest, for large parts of that match, Wrexham were very much on top. They were very much sticking it to Chelsea. They were not afraid. They were not overawed. They weren't worried. It wasn't like, oh, we're playing this big team. They weren't holding back. They were getting stuck in, and it was just 11 men versus 11 men until it wasn't. So obviously the big thing that most people are talking about today is obviously the red card for Dobson for his challenge on Alejandro Garnacho. Now, just to say, and obviously as a United fan, I'm not majorly a fan of Alejandro Garnacho. While I think he's a very talented young man, I think his ego is atrocious, and I think the way he carries himself is atrocious, and I the way he went about leaving our club and the constant sly digs, I'm not a fan, let's just say. So I'm not going to give him any unnecessary praise. However, I do feel for large parts of the match yesterday, I actually thought he was the brightest spark that Chelsea had, probably for the first 45 to 50 minutes. He was very good. And only from, like, he was making all the attacks, he was making all the runs, everything, all the threats were going down his side. He was the one taking shots and trying to set other people up. He was crossing, and when he crosses, the thing is, most people think Alejandro Garnacho can't cross. He can. The problem is how often he chooses not to. When he chooses to do it, he actually can cross. And, you know, for me, he was head and shoulders the best player for Chelsea for quite nearly the whole start of the match, I would say. But Dobson was playing very well for Wrexham. He was having a really good game. He was really involved in both defence and attack. He was having a great match. This tackle, though, it was a terrible tackle, and I didn't actually expect there to be any controversy around this decision. For me, it was clear as day. So he goes in, studs up, like knee high at speed at Garnacho, okay? Like, and the on-field referee gives the yellow. VAR take a look. They tell him to go to the monitor. He goes to the monitor, comes back and changes it to red. It was always going to be red. I cannot. I'm not being smart. I was genuinely shocked to see the amount of people saying that's a terrible decision. Why did VAR get involved? It's clearly a yellow. It shouldn't even be a yellow. Blah, 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 blah. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is insane. I wanted Wrexham to win. I was on my X. I was like, go on, Wrexham. I was in the group chats. Wrexham scored. You know, I wanted Wrexham to go through. I wanted Chelsea to go out. I wasn't cheering for Chelsea. But it doesn't mean I don't have eyes in my head. At the end of the day, he goes in high, studs up, at velocity. I mean, that is, if you could just write down a list of things that would make a tackle a red card, those would be the top 3. It was completely reckless. And to be honest with you, Garnacho was very, very, very lucky that it just took the front of his shin. Do you see, if it had been half an inch backwards, he could have broke his leg. He absolutely could have broke his leg. If he was any further back on the leg, he would have just broke it. That is completely reckless, and it is completely dangerous. And I can't understand why anyone would think that it's not a red card. And I've seen some people saying, well, he only grazed his shin, so it's not a red card. And I'm like, that was complete luck. The red card is for the tackle. It's not for the amount of damage you cause. I mean, Van de Ven broke Isak's leg and didn't get a red card. The card isn't for how much damage you do. The card is for the level of the tackle. And the tackle was a red card tackle. I have to say, I'm genuinely very taken aback at the amount of people that thought it wasn't a red card. And what I will just say, and I said this, you know, when we were speaking about Newcastle and United, the match, and the second yellow, I said, people often judge the decision based on what team, so which team it goes for. So for example, if Garnacho had gone in on Dobson like that, absolutely everybody would be saying that's a clear red card. How did the referee not give a red card in the first instance? Like, how did it take VAR? But because it was a Wrexham player getting sent off, all of a sudden, no, obviously it wasn't. And I just think, yes, rivals, yes, banter, yes, a bit of crack, but you also have to be honest. I mean, it's a red card every day of the week, no matter what team it is. It's unfortunate, and to be honest, I think if they'd stayed at 11 men, there's a real possibility they could have gone through. They really were getting the better of Chelsea, and I think it completely changed the game. And the only reason it made it to 4-2 was because Wrexham went down to 10 men. I genuinely believe they could have beaten Chelsea if they had stayed at 11 men. But it's unfortunate. It's one of them. They will learn from it. And from what I've seen, Wrexham fans are delighted with the performance anyway, because it was a very good performance. But there's me wee rant for the morning. Get that off my chest on a Sunday afternoon, and then I can get on with my day. But let me see what you guys are saying. Chris says, I thought that Wrexham should be proud of their performance, but unfortunately that was a red card in my opinion. Chris, I completely agree. That's exactly my sentiment towards it. Aaron says, I thought it was a red card. Chris says, and unfortunately the Wrexham third goal was offside. It was offside, and you know, we often see calls that really, like, who was it the other day was offside by like their nose. It was ridiculous. Who was it? I can't remember. There's so many matches. That's wonderful. But also I forget everything. I have the worst memory ever. So once I've done my reaction to that match, everything I thought about that match is gone. It's like I dump it, I move it into the recycle bin to make room for the information for the next match. Somebody was offside the other day, literally by their nose, and it'll come to me later on who it was. But like, that I thought was ridiculous. I mean, nobody's nosing the ball into the back of the net. But I thought it was a fair offside yesterday. The rules are the rules. I've often said, it's the rules itself I don't like. I would change the rule itself. However, it was offside. It was offside, you know, and sometimes whether it's the outcome we want or not, we do actually just have to accept the facts of the matter. Now, I saw our David Speaks Football sneak in there, and I've just seen our Kai behind the dugout sneak in there. So I'm going to fly through user comments to see what the guys are saying, because honestly, who knows? Obviously, Kai is a Chelsea fan, so I want to see what he has to say on this matter. Let me see. Flossie didn't see the tackle. Flossie, when I get to the end of these wee comments, I'll see if I can find a still of it on X. I might have a still of it on my phone, so at least you'll be able to see it, what we're talking about. David says, "Hey Lou, sorry I haven't had a chance to pop in. Disgraceful, unacceptable behaviour, David. Menu is not good enough. Aware this is not the subject, but my agenda is in full swing." Well, two things on that. Menu is not good enough. I've said this consistently. I don't think he's good enough. And a lot of people, you know, he became the symbol of defeating Amram. So people got behind him. It was kind of pick a side, Amram or Menu, and if you don't like Amram, then you pick Menu. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't think Amram was good enough, and I don't think Menu's good enough, and I think Menu had a poor spell under Eric Ten Hag. So no, definitely not the subject, but I completely agree. I've said it for actually ages. I've said it when everyone was wearing, you know, t-shirts and free Menu and all over social media. I think he's a decent player. That's it. I don't think he's great. I don't think his ceiling's massive. I think there's actually plenty of other better players out there. I don't get the hype. I don't really like his attitude. He's not for me. I'd sell him on, no problem, and I wouldn't think anything about it. Second thing is, an opinion is not an agenda. An agenda is where you think something regardless of what the facts point to. The facts point to him not being good enough. So I don't think that's an agenda. I think it's an opinion. And if people don't like it, that is entirely up to them. Aaron says, "Lou, I think as well, Wrexham being the underdog, they all wanted Wrexham to win." Yeah, and that's fair. We all love an underdog story. Kai is in the chat behind the dugouts. Hey all... Oh... I can read sentences. Hey all, clear red and offside, but they deserved more out of the game. Sarr got the same off. Lads, I don't know what's happened because Kai's sentence makes complete sense. All of the words are in the correct order. My brain is refusing to compute them, so I'm going to try this again, okay? It's a clear red and offside, but they deserved more out of the game. Sarr got the same decision against him when they played Tottenham. Thank you very much and good night. I've gotten through the full sentence. I don't know why I couldn't read that. It was a completely legitimate full sentence and I just couldn't read it. Oh dear. It's Sunday. It doesn't count on a Sunday, does it? Yes. And yes, you will notice our Kai is a mod now. I've made him a Smurf. The mod squad. He's a part of the mod squad. Yes, it was. Thank you guys for telling me. It was Sarr for Palace against Spurs. I mean, that one was pretty tight. Everybody saying hi. Yes, Mama Flossie, agenda is one of the most overused words on YouTube. The problem is a lot of the people who are using this word, and I don't mean you, David, I mean the people who make it kind of popular in the first place, don't actually understand what an agenda is. And while some people might say that's semantics, I would say actually it's a basic understanding of the English language. An agenda is when you are out to get someone or something regardless of what the facts point to. That is an agenda. So for example, if I consistently give out about Bruno Fernandes because he is not the type of captain that is my cup of tea, and no matter what he does or how good he is, I just constantly criticise him, that is an agenda. Agenda, because it doesn't matter what facts come into play, I am sticking to my opinion regardless. It's not factually based. That's an agenda. If I have the opinion Bruno Fernandes is not my cup of tea as a captain. However, when he does things well, I praise him, which I do regularly on this channel. When he does a good pass, when he sets up a play, when he has a good match, I'll say it. When he has a bad match, I'll say it. That's not an agenda, that's an opinion. He's not my cup of tea. If he does something bad, I'll say it. If he does something good, I'll say it. Those are called opinions. Those aren't agendas. So I think just people need to actually think about the word they're using. And I hate when things become a craze, because then it becomes overused and then it loses all meaning. So yeah, I agree, Fossey. Agenda is one of the most overused words on YouTube and mostly used completely incorrectly. Oh, you disagree with my opinion, you have an agenda. No, I have a different opinion. Welcome to the real world. Get over it. Gary is in the house. Lovely Gary. Hello and thank you for being here. Right, let me see. Behind the Dugout says, casually waiting 3 to 5 business days for Lou to read that. Happy to be a Smurf. I did take several attempts at that. That was disgraceful. But yes, so I think Wrexham very much started the better team. They very much were setting the tempo, and I think they really set Chelsea on the back foot. I think Chelsea seemed really nonplussed. They seemed really surprised that Wrexham would dare to bring the match to them. This lowly Wrexham team who's not in the Premier League, how very dare they set the tempo and make it an actual match. And it was like, as I said, I think Garnacho it was probably the best match that I personally have seen for Garnacho in a Chelsea shirt. But the players around him they just seemed a little bit shell-shocked that Wrexham were sticking it to them. But it was, do you know what? People talk often about the magic of the FA Cup, and while they didn't get the result, and they definitely did deserve to get something out of the match, because they were really good until they went to 10 men. Even after they went to 10 men, they were still attacking. They didn't go, oh no, we're at 10 men, we best just sit in. They did continue to attack and attack and attack. It just obviously was with different numbers. Kai says the word you were looking for, Lou, is shit. Well, to be fair, yeah, that probably is the word I'm looking for. Yous were really terrible. And I do think the red card changed the game. I do think the offside call changed the game. However, I believe they were the correct calls. Therefore, I don't think we can complain about them too much. It's disappointing. It's sad. But I mean, that's the way of the world sometimes. And the fact is, they were the correct decisions in the end. It's just unfortunate. What I will say is, Wrexham are going to be promoted again, aren't they? Like, they're going for a record. Is it 3 or 4 promotions in a row, which is a record? Like, when they get into the Premier League, they're a pretty good side. I mean, I think they could be another, like, a Sunderland or, do you know, another team that comes up and gives the kind of the status quo Premier League teams a real bloody go. And I have to say, and I'm probably going to be a part of this gang, it's all well and good cheering for Wrexham against Chelsea when it's the FA Cup and Wrexham are the underdog. Do you see when Wrexham get into the Premier League, which they will do, and they start doing really well, and they start playing against all the rest of our teams in the Premier League, and they start taking points off us, do you know what's going to happen? Everyone's going to go, oh, well, it's only because they have them owners putting loads of money in, which is correct, because their coach, their manager, and I'm sorry, they do call him a manager, is fantastically experienced. He's a very good manager. The players are doing wonderfully. However, I don't believe they'd be in the position they were in if they haven't received the investment they'd received. So while they're currently an underdog against a Premier League team, when they get into the Premier League, I don't think they'll be considered an underdog, not in the same way as, say, a Wolves is considered to be an underdog. I think the fondness, the softness for Wrexham, I think that will disappear very, very quickly when they come into the Premier League and start taking points off our teams. So I think that's going to be an interesting experiment, because we love an underdog story. We all do. All the fans love an underdog story. Everybody loves to see the underdog win and do well. But are they going to be considered an underdog with their owners? I don't know. I don't think they are. I actually don't think they're going to have any goodwill towards them when they actually make it into the Premier League. I think they're riding high at the moment, and then I think it's going to completely run out. So just from a social experiment point of view, I think it's going to be very interesting, because I don't think anyone's actually going to want them to do well. Sachin is in the house. So I say hello to Gary or Jay. Oh my goodness, there's so many people. So hello to Gary, and hello to lovely Jay, and hello to lovely Sachin. Sachin says, just spending will not get you success though. Case in point, Spurs and United. And that's completely correct. Absolutely, 100% correct. I don't believe They've only got where they are because of the money. I suppose my point, or where I sit, is I don't think they got where they are because of the money, but I don't think they get where they are as fast as they have without the money. So I think the manager is obviously very good and a key factor. And obviously they're bringing in the right players. They're doing the right things with the money. They're not like doing a Spurs and a United, spending loads of money but really, really badly. So they have the right people making the right decisions with that money, which is also important. So I think the players, very good. And I mean, the fight they showed yesterday, the attacking threat they showed yesterday, the never say die attitude they showed yesterday is fantastic. And they're clearly talented players as well, because it wasn't just all fight and aggression and fouls. They outplayed Chelsea. So their players are clearly talented. Their manager is clearly very good. Their structure is obviously making the correct decisions with the money that's being invested. However, I also think the money is a factor. I don't think it's the only factor, but I think it's a factor. I don't think they would have got where they are as fast as they have without it. They may have got there eventually anyway, but not this quick. So I think it'll be a factor, if you get what I mean. So I completely agree with you, Sachin. It's not going to buy you success, but it might buy you a fast pass. Chris says, to be fair, Mansfield gave it a real go against us too, and this is what makes the FA Cup magical. The chance of a giant killing and minnows giving the big boys a torrid time. It is, Chris. It is. And you know what? People say, they take the mickey a little bit of the magic of the FA Cup. Oh, I'm not watching it. This isn't a big tournament anymore. I hate FA Cup weekend. Blah, 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 blah. What I would say, and this is a genuine opinion, I don't know why I said that. All of my opinions on here are genuine. It's not as if like some of the opinions I give you aren't genuine. It's amazing the words you say to fill space. And you know where I think I learned that? You know at college, where you have like an assignment and they say you must put 3,000 words, and you think of all of the words you can add into sentences to bulk it up a bit. I think I now do that in real life. I fill the words up more than I need to. All of my opinions are genuine, just so you know. I don't wake up some days and lie to you and then other days give you my genuine opinion. But I've distracted myself now from what I was trying to say. What was I going to say, lads? Somebody tell me what I was trying to say. Jenny is in the house. Nice to see you, lovely Jenny. Thank you for being here. What was I going to say? I've distracted myself entirely. What were we talking about? The giant killing, yes, the FA Cup. What I think is they would actually get more eyes. So the FA Cup, as I've just said there, a lot of people sort of look down on it now. I think younger people, and oh my God, I sound like I'm 90 saying that, but you know, younger people who maybe don't have that nostalgia with it, they don't have that, heart link with it, it's not as exciting, it's not as money orientated, it's not as flashy, but it's real honest to goodness football. It's real proper good football. It was a really good match, so it was, I really enjoyed it. There was no obviously there was tactics involved, but there was no we're just going to go defense against attack. They actually participated in the game, and what Chris is saying there, Mansfield did the same against Arsenal, and that does seem to be the general consensus. And I just think we can't lose that. But when you put all the games on at the weekend instead of the Premier League, I think people are less likely to watch it. Because do you see at the weekend, people go, there's no Premier League this weekend, I'll go out with my family, I'll go on a day out, I'll take a trip, I'll go for a walk, I'll do the things I don't normally get done, because it's not as glamorous. However, I think if you take those matches, so if the Premier League matches that played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, had actually played out at the weekend, and you put on the FA Cup Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think you get more eyes, because people come home after work and they throw it on and they'll watch it. If it's the weekend, they'll make a weekend of it and they'll go away. If they're at home for work the next day anyway, the kids in school, and they're at home and they're sitting eating their dinner, they'll throw it on and then they'll remember how much they enjoy it. So I think sometimes you have to think of the psychological stuff behind the scheduling. I just don't think they thought about anything behind the scheduling this season. I think the scheduling as a whole across all competitions has been horrific. I can't get over how bad it is. It's almost like they put a bet on how bad can we make this before they riot. But I think if you want more people to watch the FA Cup, which they do, and it's not getting the traction it used to, which it's not, give it the best chance when it's going to be the most convenient for people. In the evening after work when the kids have gone to bed, that's when it's convenient for people. That is when you're more likely to get people to watch it, so that's when you should put it on. Don't change, right? The Premier League plays on weekends. Sometimes it plays a midweek game as well when it needs to. But don't take it off the weekend to replace it with something else. Keep the Premier League to its normal schedule. Don't mess with it and add the FA Cup in. Instead of changing the schedule of one competition to squeeze in another competition, then overlap the matches. What? Do you know how many hours are in a day? Why would you overlap the matches? I just think it's silly. I think it's completely silly. I think whoever is responsible for the schedule in this season is just an absolute moron. But even more importantly than that, I don't think they've given the FA Cup the best chance of being seen by people, because if people are kind of like, oh, well, throw it on if it's there, but I'm not going out of my way to watch it, they're more likely to do that on a weeknight than they are at the weekend. That's just the way it is. That's the way humans think. So I just don't think they thought it through. I don't think they think anything through. Gary is saying Spurs are a shit show. Gary, it's very hard to argue with that. I think you're 100% correct. I can't say anything comforting there. You are a disaster at the minute. Sachin says, I felt so bad for Wrexham for that red. Took the wind out of their sails. I did feel bad for them, and it did take the wind out of their sails, but I do still think it was the correct decision. So, they'll learn from it, and they will have to learn from it, because the fact is, if they get promoted and they come into the Premier League, they're going to have to deal with that every single week. Every single week. I spend more time talking about the referees and VAR than I talk about the football. Every single week without fail. And every week I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about the football and only the football this week. I'm not giving the referees any more attention. And then they do stupid things and I'm like, oh, we have to talk about the referees again. So I think it's a steep learning curve for Wrexham, because they have to remember, if they come into this competition, that is going to be every single week. They can't get away with the things that they used to get away with. So I think it'll be a learning for them. I think it'll be a really important learning for them. Jenny says she loves the FA Cup. It's a fantastic competition. I don't know why more people don't know about it. It just feels like real football. Do you know what I mean? Flossie says putting the games behind a paywall won't help, as it's taking away from lots of fans. And again, I completely agree. And it just brings you back to football was the game of the people, of the common people. It was for the people that didn't have loads of money. It was for the kids that played on the street. It was for the working class people as such. And they're making it for you have to pay a fortune to see it. People don't have that money. People have bills to pay. People have electric and rent or mortgages. They've got food to put on the table, uniforms on the kids. They've got, there's everything is so expensive. Just getting your basics like your bread, your milk, your basic bits at the minute is so expensive. Putting football behind a paywall, I just think it should all be scrapped. All of it. I think it should all be free. Every single, or they should put just everything. All of the competition, so the Premier League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, should all be put on one subscription. You paid for that subscription. It's not like some are on TNT, some are on Sky, some are over here. Because then you need multiple subscriptions. I think it should all be free to watch, but if it's not all going to be free to watch, put it all on one subscription so you've only one thing to pay instead of 6. But it does annoy me. It does annoy me. I think it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, people. Let me see. Sachin says, I don't think they come up. Ipswich, Hull, Millwall and even Borough might play in the playoffs, who look way better. That's interesting, Sachin, because obviously I don't watch the championship every week. So you are definitely the expert in the chat on that. So what we will do is, if you are correct and they don't come up, we will remember to give you this shout out. Kate and Jimbo says, hey Lou, I've just got up and I'm in agony. Kate, I would well believe it. That 12-hour marathon sprint off a stream yesterday, absolutely fantastic. But just thinking about sitting still for that long, my arthritis is like, don't do that to me. So I can imagine the pain that you are in today. And hopefully you will recover quickly and you'll feel lots better, because it was just such a good cause and such a good stream. But thank you so much for popping in to say hi as well. Now, that was not the only match that took place yesterday. So while it was a very interesting match and a very important match, and Wrexham really could have gotten the better of Chelsea, it was not the only match that was played yesterday, and it's not the only match that I watched yesterday. I did in fact watch the Newcastle versus Manchester City game in the FA Cup yesterday. I don't really like it when two Premier League teams meet in the FA Cup. It's good in a sense because it weeds out some of the Premier League teams, so that, say, if it was constantly like a Premier League team against a lower level team, for the most part, the Premier League team would go through and you end up just with a cup competition of the Premier League, which you don't want. The other side of it is you see these teams play week in, week out. Like Newcastle City, I think, are playing each other 4 times within a month. And you're like, this game again. Do you know what I mean? So it's good in that it knocks some people out that maybe you want to weed out for the smaller teams. However, it can also feel like a Premier League match as well. So it's a little bit of a weird one. But Newcastle, what were we doing, lads? Newcastle started fantastic. They were high tempo, they were fast, they were attacking, they were playing really, really, really well. They were on the ball. Again, Lewis Hall, fantastic. He's just such a good player. I hope they have him signed up for like a 10-year contract, because everybody's going to want him. He's very, very, very good, very talented and very hardworking. And I see Mama Flossie's in the chat saying, let's skip this. Unfortunately, we can't. But the first, I would say, 30 minutes, Newcastle were brilliant. Unbelievably good, right? And then they get the goal. So they get the goal at 18 minutes. So they're very, very good, fast-paced, high-tempo, attack. They get the goal. The goal feels like very deserved because of the way they've been playing at 18 minutes in. After the goal, they do continue to play that way for a little bit longer. So maybe it's not 30 minutes, maybe it's more like 25. Let's say another 5 minutes after the goal, they kind of keep it a bit. And then bit by bit, they just sort of die off. It's like they get the goal and they go, all right, job done, lads. That's the end of that. And they just, now United do this, okay? For a long time, United do this. They go ahead and then they go, well, I'll just sit on the lead now. And they kind of forget they're still in a match. And we've been doing that for a long time. But I've never, not in recent memory, although to be fair, my memory is terrible. Not in recent memory can I remember seeing any team, including my own, they just completely stop playing the way Newcastle did. It's like inexplicable. The drop off. They were so good at the start of the match. They were so up for it. The atmosphere was brilliant. And then they just stopped. Like they just stopped. It was like they went on strike. I don't know what, I honestly don't have the words to explain the level of drop off from the way they started the match and how they ended up by 5 minutes after the goal. It was insanity. And then Savinho gets the equaliser. It's 1-1 going into half time. And you're going, right, Eddie Howe surely is going to light a fire under them. He's going to get them, riled up again the way they started the first half. And then you come out after half time and literally a minute and a bit after half time, so less than 2 minutes after half time, the second half kicks off, Omar Marmoush makes it 2-1 to City. And that was it. The match was over. Like, it was absolutely incredible. And as you can see, I talk a lot. You know I talk a lot. I've always got the words. But I have to say, I struggle to find the words for the level of drop-off that I saw, because it just wasn't normal. It was not normal, not expected. I'm baffled by it. And as I said, you're expecting Eddie Howe at half-time to give them a right boot up the backside, to come out and go 2-1 down after being 1-0 up. It's just horrendous. Then at 60 odd minutes, Eddie Howe does make some substitutions. Alanga comes off, Osula comes off, Trippier comes off. You've got Joe Linton coming on, Johan Whistle coming on, Dan Byrne coming on, and you're going, here come the big guns. Here come the big boys. They're going to do something. Nothing. Joe Linton had a few arguments. That was about it. And then Omar Marmoush makes it 3-1. And at 3-1, the atmosphere is dead. You see people starting to leave St James's Park. Woeful. I still had it on the TV, but I almost just stopped watching really a bit because there was nothing happening. It was just dead. Voltemada. So he comes off for Anthony Gordon in the 72nd minute. But we really, really need to talk about Voltemada. Oh, wrecking the gaff. Chris said Fulham scored, but it's offside, and I nearly knocked my mic off the desk. I was so excited for an almost goal. And Flossie with a really big question, so I'm going to come to that in a little minute. I'm going to finish this bit, and then I'm going to go to what Flossie said there. But Voltemada, what has happened? Because he came in and he hit the ground running so well. We were talking about him consistently week on week as a genuine possibility for signing off the summer. We were talking about him in the same conversations as Hugo Ekitike, actually, who at the time was also just absolutely sensational. He completely got them through when they were having a terrible patch for the first kind of third of the season. And up until kind of the headed own goal and the return of Johan Wissa, which happened all around the same time, he was fantastic. We were saying, God, you could have not even bought Wissa. You've spent all this money on Wissa, who hadn't even played a match, and Voltemada was sensational. But yesterday, he was so deep. What's he going to be able to do from there? Why are you putting him there? What is the man supposed to do when you're playing him that deep? It's a ridiculous decision, and it's clearly damaging him to play him there. It's nonsensical, absolutely nonsensical, and I don't know what Eddie Howe's doing. I really don't know what Eddie Howe's doing, and I know he's a likeable character. People think, he's a nice guy, and I'm sure he's lovely. But what he's doing with Voltemada is nonsensical, and it goes to show the impact these decisions can have on the player. It's only we saw what Voltemada could do before, we wouldn't know. And so we talk sometimes about players being flops, players not doing well, players not being at the required level for the Premier League. Imagine if Voltemada had come in and Wissa had never been injured. Voltemada would have been played like this from the very beginning. We wouldn't know how good he can be. It goes to show what a manager can do, the damage they can do to a player. And I just think Eddie Howe, he needs to stop. He really needs to stop. He's damaging this player. Voltemada's going from being potentially one of the signings of the summer to being a flop. Now, I wouldn't call him a flop because we saw what he did for the whole start of the season. But I mean, he is now flopping. And I'm just glad we got to see what he could do before Eddie Howe did this to him. But how many players have come into the Premier League or have moved teams, been misused by the manager and labelled a flop, when actually they were really talented and they were just being misused? How many times has this happened and we didn't get to see the best of the player beforehand to know the difference? It's very frustrating. I'm not even a Newcastle fan, and it's very frustrating. Eddie Howe, he's some questions to answer. And this is an answer. So obviously the result of the match, it ended 3-1 to City, and Newcastle are out. But it does beg the question, and Mama Flossie has asked the question, has Eddie Howe taken Newcastle as far as he can? Now, these questions have been rumbling under the surface since before Christmas, because obviously I would have Ash on the show regularly, and we speak about this all the time. We speak about it in the chat, we speak about it on the show. There was fans as far back as like October, November, I would say maybe November, saying that Eddie Howe needed to go. There's been a lot of talk from rival fans saying, you know, Eddie Howe has done what he can for Newcastle, but if they want to go any further, if they want to compete with the big boys, if they want to win any trophies, they need to get a better manager. Eddie Howe has taken them as far as he can, and he was the guy before the guy. Now they need the next guy. Eddie Howe has done what he can. They need the next guy for the next steps. And a lot of Newcastle fans were initially against this, but I think more and more and more, if he keeps making decisions like this, they're going to start going, do you know what, maybe he has taken us as far as he can. Maybe he can't do the next step, because look at the damage he's doing. So let me see what you guys are saying. Sachin says, I personally think Howe's time is up. They need someone who will take them further than he has with better football. Flossie says, and this is obviously about Voltemada, he's not playing in his best position. That he is definitely not. Jenny wants to know Flossie's answer to that question about Eddie Howe. And she says, I think he has. I hate saying it, but I think we need to move on if we want to compete. And I have to say, I agree. You can be likeable, but that only gets you so far. You have to be good at your job. Sachin says, putting Voltemada against the two Nicos was criminal. That's true. He got eaten up in that midfield. He really did. Everything that he's good at got lost from a poor managerial decision. Really, really tough. And that's going to damage his confidence. And once a player's confidence is damaged like that, sometimes it just can't be undone. Sometimes they never recover the same way, because, you know, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And this is his first season. And while it started really well, if it ends like this, I mean, it's not good, is it? So, yeah, I think Eddie Howe's doing a lot of damage at the minute to Voltemada. Jenny says, it's sad but probably true. Newcastle has so much potential. What I will say is, if Newcastle decide to move Eddie Howe on and they bring somebody in who can use the squad better and who can take those next steps, I think the rest of us are for it. I think the likes of Man United are in the top 5 because the likes of Newcastle are underperforming. If Newcastle, you know, get a new manager and absolutely smash it, we're in big trouble, people. So as much as it's good for them, maybe they should keep Eddie Howe. Let me see. Chris is giving us a quick update. After a passive first 15 minutes of the second half, Southampton are starting to play again now. Well, that's good, because it means it's going to be a more interesting match if both teams are up and at it. Sachin says, that said, City probably played their best football of the season yesterday. They were extremely good. They were very, very, very good. I agree with that. They were very good. Aaron says, Joe Lynton went the other way, didn't he? Struggled up front, but thrived when he moved into midfield. And see, that's the thing. Newcastle have really talented players. They have players that are better than the position they're in, and they have players better than going out with cups like that. And I think you have to play to the players' strengths, because it's all well and good saying, this is my idea, this is what I want, I'm the manager, I'm in charge, blah, blah, blah. But you also need to play to the strengths of the team that you have available to you and get as much as you possibly can out of them, because the more you get out of them, the more they'll be willing to adapt, because they're happy, and when they're happy, they're more willing to do things for you. So yeah, and I think we're going to finish it on this from our lovely Mama Flossie. It's sad. He brought us so much, but we are stagnating, and no team can do that. And I think that's very true of every team. But thank you so much for joining me, folks. I'm going to love yous and leave yous. Do have your notification bells turned on. I will be live tomorrow. I am not 100% certain what time yet. I just need to double check something. Will either be 7 or 7:30. I know we do have an FA Cup match tomorrow at 8. So keep your notification bell turned on, and that way you'll get the notification of what time I'll be live. thank you for being here. Please smash a like if you forgot to do so on your way in, and I will talk to you all